Welcome back to another UNC football recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you are watching us on our fast-growing YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, I am THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is our director of football recruiting, Miss Deana King. And Deana, big time day for Carolina football. It seems like whenever they get a football commitment now, it is a big time day, not just because it's a commitment, but Mack Brown and his program are racking up some major prospects, kids with NFL type talent. And they did that again today with George Pettaway, the 4-star running back from Suffolk, Virginia. He attends Nansemond and Suffolk Academy, 5'11", 190 pounds, really fast, really strong, really smart kid, and the kind of personality I think that UNC fans are going to learn to enjoy very quickly. He's the number 101 prospect nationally in the class of 2022. He's the number 5 prospect at his position, and he is the number 4 overall prospect in the talent-loaded state of Virginia. So your thoughts, George Pettaway is going to be a Tar Heel, something that you've been leaning toward for about 2 months now. So it's in the books. George is a Tar Heel. What are your thoughts?
Big time. I mean, he's made a lot of Carolina fans happy. A lot of Carolina fans are happy with all these recruits. They love landing these 4 stars and 5 stars. You know, it's something that hasn't happened a lot in the last few years, but definitely Mack is turning the tide recruiting wise, and he's really doing well in Virginia and landing guys like Tony Grimes and kids like Tayon Holloway and Ty Chapman, now George Pettaway. They hope to get a couple more fellow Virginians on board the 2022 train. But huge pickup, like you said, fast. That's one big word, fast, elusive, playmaker, dynamic. He's really fun to watch. I mean, he gives you kind of flashbacks to I hate to compare him to Michael Carter, but he's very similar in size and frame and speed wise.
Yeah, we've had, I guess THI, we've seen him about 4 different times in person in various capacities. And when I saw him the first time, gosh, it was June of 20. When there was a camp up in Virginia Beach, and Jacob and I went up there and covered the camp. It was the first time I got to see Pettaway in person and talk to him and stuff like that. And just watching him run, he reminds me of Michael Carter. And I'm not a big fan of the comparisons. We did a podcast a couple of days ago, and I don't like to compare kids because it's not fair to the kid who's being compared to the established athletes. But there is a similarity, and I think it helps people kind of understand what you saw from Michael Carter from a physical standpoint, from the way he runs standpoint. It's the kind of thing Pettaway could provide at UNC. He's just that kind of guy. And you've talked a lot about his ability to catch passes as well. We haven't seen yet this year a lot of throws to the running backs, but last year, Javonte and Michael, in only 11 games, they each caught, I think, around 25, 26 passes. So that is a part of Phil Longo's offense, and a guy like Pettaway could provide that for him. And I believe, and tell me what you think, I believe that George Pettaway is the kind of talent that could come to Carolina and get on the field in some capacity. He may not start and run for 1,000 yards and play 45, 50 snaps a game, but I could see him in a role on the offense, maybe as a third back, maybe as a second back, who knows. But he's talented enough, good enough, and I think smart enough that he could come in and help them in some way.
Well, that running back room, Coach Porter, he's building in a stable with the emergence of Caleb Hood, who had a great game, scored his first touchdown against Virginia last week. Caleb will be back. You know, Camaro Edmonds is in the program. He'll have a year under his belt. And adding George with a fellow 2022 commit, Omari and Hampton, that's got UNC fans very excited. Landing 2 4-star running backs, the best running back in North Carolina and the best running back in Virginia. They got them a really good, I'll say the word, dandy combo there. I can say thunder and lightning, because they're their strengths complement each other, because Amarian is more of a power back, a Todd Gurley type back, Javante type, and then you have George, who is a speedy Michael Carter type guy. So, they can step. They don't have to be rushed in. They'll have to learn the system and everything. But we've seen North Carolina use multiple backs, and that was not a factor. Some kids want to be the back. Definitely not the with Hampton and Pettaway. I think those guys. Really think Hampton really recruited Pettaway as well to come join him, because they can make a dynamic duo and save their legs.
And there are
what Carter and Williams are doing now. They're in the NFL.
Yeah, well, and they both said that. Michael talked about how the number of hits he didn't get in college are hits that he could absorb in the NFL, and that could extend his career a year or two. And that's a lot of money. That's life change. That's a generational type money if you can get to a 6th year in the league as opposed to 4, for example. And just so people understand, there are other running backs that are not seniors in the program. You got DJ Jones, Josh Henderson, Elijah Green. You were speaking more about the very young ones, the ones that would be around for a few years with these guys. And we don't know what's going to happen with some of those other ones. DJ Jones is really talented, but he's got to stay healthy. So that's his thing. So with George Pettaway, the importance of getting another kid from that area, a kid that, from the 757, from the Tidewater area, from, Matt Hatfield's backyard, basically. I don't think that we've done a podcast specifically about this, and we've talked a lot about this. I don't think it can be understated the importance of planting flags in the soil, not just up there. They've got Richmond that they're looking at. They've got Lynchburg that they're looking at. But man, if they can make Carolina the cool place to go, the cool place to be for the kids in the 757, getting Grimes 1 year, getting Pettaway the next year, plus they got Holloway and Chapman, I think that is enormous for this program. And Pettaway's the kind of personality that can help this as well. He's the kind of kid that, not just because of the position he plays, but the kind of kid that he is, he could really, really help recruit that area by simply popping for UNC and having some success there.
Well, you look, North Carolina's always done well recruiting in Virginia and getting Virginia players to come to North Carolina. There's even a saying up in the Tidewater that Tidewater Tar Heels, North Carolina, they can be at Chapel Hill almost as fast as they could be at Virginia or Virginia Tech. So the Dre Bly factor up there, of course, a legend in that area. Great relationships with, I think Dre knows everybody. I mean, you see the kids come to games and their dads have played with Dre or played against him or something like that. A very charismatic person. So
you got tongue-tied, charismatic.
Yeah.
You're allowed one of those a day, just like me.
Twangy little mix-ups, but you know what I'm talking about.
Twisted twangy. hey, before we go, there were some people that have questions about some of the other places that Pettaway was looking at, some of their schools he was looking at, and kind of why Carolina emerged as the school. Because I think that when I first talked to him in June of 20, there was a lot of interest in Carolina, but he didn't know much about Carolina at the time. He wanted to learn. So over the course of the last 15 months, relations have been built. But I think he went into this similar to Zach Rice, where he just doesn't want to go somewhere to play. He just doesn't want to go somewhere that's a cool place to go. He's looking at the rest of his life based on this decision. So when you look at schools like Oregon, which he wanted to go out and see, but obviously hasn't gone out to, and the Ducks have had a home game, a couple of home games actually. And when you look at Florida and Penn State and the other schools that he considered, why do you think that Carolina just kind of was the one that stood at the end to George Pettaway?
Well, out of the 4 left, North Carolina was the closest. He also had Florida in his top 4 with Penn State, Oregon, and North Carolina. So, like relationships, he knows that he's got buddies down there at Chapel Hill. He's got a assistant coach that, is a legend and feels comfortable with him and in Dre Bly. So just think he kind of felt like a lot of these kids when they go down on the visits, the cookout and everything. I think the cookout had a lot of good conversations. We're finding out that a lot of kids really like that, the home atmosphere, meeting Miss Sally. Somebody wrote on the message board about Miss Sally, and yes, Miss Sally is very important to the Carolina football program.
Big time.
She's like coach number 2. You have the QB1, RB1. She's coach number 2.
By the way, the next time Rivals asks us to submit, hey, who's the assistant coach you want to, pump up for his recruiting so they could do something on assistant coach? I'm just going to say Miss Sally. Y'all got to do something on Miss Sally.
I'm just waiting for one kid said, what got me was Miss Sally's.
Zach Rice's mother said that. She brought her name up. She brought her up about the importance of her being there. And I think she makes a lot of people comfortable. This isn't a Miss Sally podcast, but going back to George Pettaway before we close this out, I think fit, and people talk about fit, well, it's just a single word. There are a lot of things that go into fit. I just think that Carolina, if you start stuffing everything into the fit box that makes sense, I just think that there were a lot more things in that box that fit George Pettaway in the end than any other school. And I do think, proximity mattered. I think the other dudes that are there mattered. I think that's part of fit. I think that factors into fit. So his box of all the fits was really, really big. The other schools had a lot of fits too, but the boxes weren't as big. And I think ultimately that's why George Pettaway is going to be a Tar Heel.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Carolina was on him for a while, and so he's another addition and a great addition, and he'll make Carolina fans happy.
Yeah, it's been trending this way for a few months now, so it's finally here. George Pettaway is the latest to pop for the Tar Heels in the class of 2022. He's a 4-star running back from Suffolk, Virginia, the number 101 overall prospect nationally, number 4 in the state of Virginia. She's Deana King. I'm Andrew Jones. Thanks for stopping by.